I know. Good morning. Good morning. It's Katie with NLFX Professional. I am here with Mike Petritis.
Got it. Good one.
With Eliix Marketing, and we are going to be talking about marketing your DJ business or just marketing in general. So, Mike, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like the DJ world is the world's largest fraternity at this point. So, I mean, I hope that people know who I am, but I'm not that cocky. So if you don't know who I am, essentially my background is I DJ'd for about 10 years, starting in 2008 through 2018. Then I sold my business, and then I went full-time marketing. I went to school for marketing. I have a degree in marketing. I work for brands like the City of Chicago, McDonald's, Michael Kors, and I currently also go and do private consulting with over, I think, a total of 50 DJs at least. And then we've gone and built websites for at least 100 to 200 DJs all across the country as well. So I like to think I know what I'm doing. And then also on top of that, we do advertising for attorneys, home remodeling companies, basically small businesses all over the country.
So it sounds like you work with a lot of DJs in the industry.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Perfect. So my question for you, Mike, and I think everybody might be on the same page, is what is something that people can be doing right now to ensure their livelihood or to bring in new clients, customers for the upcoming months or even next year?
Yeah, so I'm glad that this is coming up right now, and I'm glad that we scheduled this call for right now, because what's happening is that slowly states are opening up. They're trying to go and have some feelers out to see if they could dip their toe in the water and if it's going to burn or not. So I currently live in Austin, Texas. And Texas does not give an F. Like, we are basically fully open. There are some restrictions. Restaurants are now at 50% capacity. Bars are at 25% capacity. Some businesses require masks, not all of them. You're going to see about a 50-50 split of people wearing masks versus not wearing masks. And so, I mean, whether you think everyone should be wearing a mask and everyone should be in quarantine or whether you don't, I don't really want to get into that. That's what the reality of Texas is. Texas also announced, I think a week ago, that we can now have weddings at 25% capacity of the venue. And so things are opening up. And the beauty of this from a DJ's perspective and why this matters to everyone who's watching this is people are now slowly getting back into the swing of things and starting to plan their weddings again. And what's really nice about this, or something to be conscious of, I should say, is because of the back and forth rhetoric online, this is something I've noticed, is that there's a lot of people who, again, you have two sides. You have people who say we still need to be in quarantine. You have the people who say, no, let's open back up. And again, I don't want to get political, but because of this camaraderie or this attacking each other online constantly, what's happening is from a bride's perspective, what they're actually going and noticing, or what I'm seeing, is that these brides and grooms, they want to still go and plan their wedding. They want to still go and move forward with this process, and they want to celebrate their wedding because it's a huge moment. They've been planning for this for years. But the problem is because of this back and forth rhetoric online, you have this interesting situation where the people who still want to go and really celebrate their wedding and have the best time of their lives, they kind of are doing it in secrecy. They're kind of holding back. They're being more reserved. And so what's happening is that the people who do want to go and celebrate, they're not being as boisterous about it. And so from a DJ's perspective, as we're trying to go and gain more clients, as we're trying to advertise, as we're trying to move forward in this planning process, we kind of have to be respectful of those who want to still go and stay quarantined, who want everyone to wear a mask, who want everyone to stay at home. And so when I'm going and working on advertising campaigns and marketing tactics, as of right now, we are going and being a lot more kind of macro level. And what I mean by that is instead of going and advertising saying, hey, book now before the end of the month and get free uplighting, we're now going and saying, hey, here's some reviews from our past, and hey, here's our free wedding planning guide. Go and download it. We collect your email and phone number, and then we indoctrinate them through a follow-up sequence. So we're being a little bit more behind the scenes with the sales process because we don't want to come off as the vendor who's trying to push everything a little bit too far forward too quickly. Does that make sense?
Yes. It's like Alton says one time with you, Petritis. That's a hard one. Petritis, darn it. Okay. In the back of a pickup truck, along with a live deer, Petritis goes up to the deer and says, I'm Mike
Petritis.
What is that? Okay, I was like, Alton, what? Do you care to elaborate on the inside joke?
He's part of my inner circle program, and so there's a lot of jokes that go on in that arena. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I mean, as a DJ right now, if you're trying to go and get back up on your feet and advertise and get more clients, first and foremost, I would encourage you to pat yourself on the back, because if you've gotten through this, you can survive anything. So if you've been able to go and save up your pennies, go and have a savings to live off of during this pandemic, you've been able to go and retain clients because you've been going and making money on the side, doing live streaming or whatever that may be, good for you, because now you can survive anything. You are the strongest business person there is, and nothing can stop you at this point. So I really want to go, and I don't want to diminish the fact that you just survived a pandemic, because I can guarantee you right now, especially if you're in Ohio, shout out to Ohio, you're about to open back up and start doing business again. Another thing that I've noticed as I personally am going out and living life is in Texas specifically. Granted, I can't speak for the entire country, but at least in Texas specifically, what we've noticed is that because of the pandemic, because people have been locked up for months on end, humans are social creatures. We want to be out. We want to socialize. And as I've gone out, I've noticed that people have been more friendly. People have been more conversational. Every single restaurant that I visited, all the wait staff have gone and said, hey, do you mind if I sit with you? I just want to chat for a bit. It's been a while. Like, they just want to get out there and socialize. And so I thought that's very interesting, because again, that means that as DJs, as long as we continue to persevere, we're going to have probably the biggest years of our lives in terms of business, because people are going to realize that they took all these interpersonal moments for granted, and they're going to want to celebrate more. They're going to want to party more. They're going to want to dance more. And so on the other side of this, which I think is very, very soon, we're going to all be making a ton of money, which is great.
How would you recommend honing all of that, what you just said about people being social, in directing that into a marketing campaign? Because like you said, you want to be sensitive, but you want to, like, how do you navigate that?
So great question. When it comes to trying to go and put this all into an actual marketing campaign and really pull in audiences, what I would suggest is starting to put together a organic social media marketing campaign, where all you do is you highlight the last, I don't know, it depends how you want to go and do it. You want to highlight the last 12 months, the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years of business. Go and bring up highlights of the best moments of your career and put those into stories, into your Instagram, into your Facebook, in video content or video format, photo content, whatever. Start going and bringing up all these amazing memories that you've had in the last 5 years and how you want to bring those back. And so if you can go and start producing this conversational, I guess, produce this conversation in your feeds, in your actual accounts, you're going to start having people realize, like, hey, I want that. Hey, I need that. And again, so as long as we're being respective of those who've already gone and they've made it very clear that they think everyone should stay home and continue to self-isolate, as long as you're respective of those and you're not saying, hey, go and hire me as a DJ, all you need to go and do is start showcasing your best moments and get people excited for what's to come. It's kind of like we're coming into the roaring 20s again, which is quite ironic because obviously we're in the 20s. But I think that as we start going and saying, hey, this is what we've done in the past and this is what we can do in the near future, that's going to be a really, really key, I guess, marketing strategy moving forward. I think a lot of us, considering that we don't know what to post on social media anymore because we don't have any new events to go and post or share, go and look back at your highlight reels and start posting those and say, hey, we're ready and raring. We're excited to get back behind the decks. We're excited to make you dance. We're excited to bring smiles to your faces. That's the kind of positive messaging that people really need right now. Because the other issue here that we're combating is that because of this pandemic, because of extremely high poverty rates and unemployment rates, you have a lot of people who are in deep, dark places, mentally speaking. And so being that we're entertainers, we need to go and bring our positivity, our entertainment value to the forefront and make people aware that, hey, there is a positive side to this. There is going to be a bright future. And it's just a matter of time for us to go and push through it. But let me help be that lifeline to guide you through that. because we're all entertainers. I mean, that's our job, is to go and make bad days good and good days great. So as long as we can go and I guess convey that in our messaging, convey that in our marketing campaigns, you're going to have a lot of very happy, very positive people who are following your page who could become very good clients of yours. Because I think anyone who's saved up any money or has stopped spending money during this pandemic, they're ready to go and spend. Here's the thing. I'll be fully transparent. When the pandemic first hit, my firm lost $50,000 overnight, because I had all these contracts lined up and they were all with small businesses. A lot of them were DJs, to be totally honest, and they just couldn't afford it. They didn't want to move forward because they said, hey, I can't work anymore. And I don't blame them at all. But what was really interesting is the week after that, then I had never been busier. I had calls from all over the country for people who've been waiting for a moment like this to go and double down on their marketing, people who are waiting to go and redo their website, redo their branding, because this is the opportune moment to pounce. Because if you can go and push through this, if you're able to go and make sure that you're ready for the other side of whatever this is, you're going to win every single time. So we've never been busier. And I really strongly encourage everyone who's watching this that if you go and you're able to take your messaging and your branding and your marketing very seriously right now, if you can go and put together this content, put together these campaigns, you'll be doing just fine. You might be doing better on the other side of this than you ever have.
So Mike, I have a few questions, but first I want to say, guys, if you have questions for Mike, write them in the comments. I am monitoring them. We are happy to have that discussion. My next question for you is, a lot of people aren't wanting to spend a ton of money right now because they don't know what's going to happen. So my question is there anything that people can do right now without spending a ton of money? What would be the one thing you would say?
Yeah. So in general, let me emphasize that everything that I was just talking about, none of it requires spending money on advertising at all. Simply by going and making posts is a really good way to get your brand out there and get your name out there. Because now, it's already been talked about in the chat. I see Ron's talking about doing things for the community helps with bookings. Yes, absolutely. Really what's going on is that you're seeing people who support other small businesses. It's kind of like if I scratch their back, they scratch yours. So when it comes to posting in general, you're going to get reach. But if you can go and support other small businesses, they're going to go and support you. And if that business happens to go and have some sort of, I don't know, venue in the back that they can go and do events at, then boom, you're a preferred vendor. So actually, here's one kind of gold nugget that I'll give you. A few months ago, in my actual consulting group or my inner circle group, we came up with a tactic called small business bingo. What small business bingo was actually something that started in my town that I live in right now. And I was like, this is genius. Let me go and scale this. You basically put out a bingo sheet, and then you place all these local small business restaurants on this sheet. And then once people go and they order takeout or curbside from that restaurant, they go and fill that bingo slot. Once you get 5 in the row, you're entered into a drawing for a $50 gift card or a $100 gift card, whatever. If you black out if you're the first person to black out the entire sheet and go visit every small business restaurant on that sheet, then you get a $100 gift card or a $200 gift card. It does cost money. However, hear me out. When you go and do this, as you go and promote it and you post it on social media, you're going to go and notice that every single restaurant on that sheet is going to be like, oh my God, this idea is fantastic. Let's go and support this. And the restaurants will reach out to you and say, hey, 1, your next meal is free on us. And 2, we want to go and double up on the prize. And they're going to donate to the pot as well. Because again, it's in their best interest to go and promote business for themselves, but then everyone else around them as well. So it's actually produced a really, really good network for all of my students who've gone and done this. And I could go, I think there's a few of my students, if you go to Galiffa Productions in Pittsburgh or Hanson Productions in Michigan, they've all done, that's just 2, but there's a bunch of them who've done this, and they've made some amazing connections with different restaurants in their area. And a lot of them also have venues in the back of their house. So they're now going and becoming the #1 preferred vendor at all these different restaurants because they were able to go and support them. And there's restaurants who've reported back to my students and saying, hey, we've had a sizable increase in business because of what you did. And we can't thank you enough for that. So I highly suggest go and try that, the small business bingo. And you can just go and get any normal bingo sheet, fill it out with different restaurants in your area, make sure they're family owned, and then just start going and posting on social media, on Facebook, and tag all those restaurants. And you'll start getting some really good friends in high places.
So you don't contact the business before you start the bingo? No, you just do it.
Do it, because they're not going to, why would a business be mad about you sending them business?
Right.
And they're restaurants. I mean, they get random business all the time from Google and stuff. It's kind of just like that. It's an organic marketing tactic. And as long as you show that you're trying to go and get them business with absolutely no promise of anything in return, you're going to notice that you're going to have some amazing relationships actually coming out of this.
Looks like Ron wants to know, Mike, what do you do about refunds at this time?
So refunds are really interesting. This becomes a very large PR problem. When it comes to refunds, obviously, hopefully, a lot of us have properly written contracts that are reviewed by attorneys. You have force majeure, all that other stuff. Because I'll be totally honest, as long as you have a reputable contract, typically, depending on your state, now granted, I'm not an attorney, go ask for advice from a real attorney. Typically, depending on your state, how they go and define force majeure, most of us, as far as I understand, and as far as who I've spoken to, you don't owe anything in return to your clients. However, what I would strongly suggest is if you can't afford it, because all of us are in the same sinking ship, if you can go and lift someone up and have them survive a little bit longer and you can give them a refund, you will look like God. If you can go and issue them a refund, and what I would do personally is I would go and say, hey, we can issue a refund. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to go and render that refund, because obviously you need time to go and put together your resources to go and actually cover it. But if you're going to go and give that refund to someone, go and say, hey, we're going to give you this refund. And then as you send the check off to them, in that envelope, put a note saying, hey, it's a shame we couldn't work with you. It was great planning your wedding with you, yada, yada, yada. If you could, please leave us a review and then put a link to your Google or Facebook page. Reason behind that is if you're going to give them a review and you don't owe them anything in return, you're going to have the best 5-star review on your damn page, because you didn't owe them anything. Again, this is all about this is all about expectations. If they're not expecting anything in return, you're giving them a full refund or a partial refund, whatever, and you're helping them out, you're giving them value for nothing in return. But if you go and ask them saying, hey, if you could, please leave us a review, now it's a full exchange. You've paid for that review essentially, and it helps you out. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you really just cannot afford to give that refund, obviously you can go and say, hey, we can go and reassign that date or reassign these funds to a future date in the next year, 2 years, whatever. I've seen some people who have said they'll go and allow those funds to cover an event up to 3 years in advance, because obviously next year is going to be very stacked. And there's a fixed number of dates in the year. So we can't go and advertise that we can have DJs all the time, depending on if you're a multi-op or not, but we can't always go and do 20 events in a night. But if you can go and use those funds for a date up to 3 years in advance, some people are okay with that. Not all are. So I would encourage you to see if you can issue that refund. But again, if you issue that refund, there's no reason why you can't go and ask for something in return, like a review.
So Mike, my next question for you, we covered a little bit about social media. My next question is websites. If there are 3 things that someone can do to update their website marketing, what are those 3 things?
Ooh, that's extremely vague, but I like it.
3, so, like, I could hone it in a little bit, but I'm going to see what you come up with first.
So here's the thing. I've said this time and time again. The first thing I encourage everyone to go and do is check your website on GTmetrix, GTmetrix.com. And what that is, it's a speed test where essentially you can go and see how fast the website is on the front end, the back end. GTmetrix will give you 2 different scores. They'll give you a Y-slow score and a page speed score. Excuse me, a page speed score measures the front end, and a Y-slow score measures the back end. So a page speed score is looking at, are all your images the right size? Are they all compressed? Is your code minified? Are you using a ton of videos on the page, whatever? It's going to go in and give you a score based on that. And then on top of it, the Y-slow score is going to measure the back end. Is your server fast? Are you using a CDN? What's your response time? So on and so forth. And then if there's any issues with that test, go and fix them. Because Google, especially now, because everything is going online. I mean, it's always been online, but now there's people who never wanted to order online before, but now they're being forced to. Google is now getting more and more stringent on the different criteria that would put you at the top of Google search ranks. So you need a really fast website. You need very good contextual information on that website that's answering someone's actual question. And you also need to make sure that the website's engaging, that people actually stay on it. So a lot of people think that a Google search rank is completely based on keywords and speed. And that's not really the case. Click-through rates are extremely important, and making sure that people stay on your website is really important. So you need to have something that's engaging. And one way to make your website more engaging, because I'm sure that's a follow-up question, is making sure that your website has a funnel flow of sorts. Hopefully you guys have heard of a ClickFunnels or a sales funnel. And what that means is that you're having a series of pages on a website that have a very clear defined call to action. A lot of DJs fall to the problem of having a website that has too many options, or there's no clear option. You never want to go and allow someone to be just exploring your website based on the main navigation menu at the top of the page. Because when you were growing up, when you got your driver's license, your driving instructor probably told you that when you're driving, you always have to assume that everyone else on the road is stupider than you. Well, it's kind of the same thing with web design. You have to always assume that people who go to your website are always stupider than you. And to be quite frank with you, most of the time it's true.
That was very
but that's a whole other story. So really when it comes to going and doing web design, I like to go and, I mean, you need a main navigation menu, of course, but I like to go and often just put a lot of calls to action to the page to guide people to certain pages. One of my design tricks that my team and I use now that we've built over, 100 and 200, I don't know the exact number. It's a lot of websites for DJs. Instead of going and building out your pages based on your service, I don't like people who go and have home, about, DJ, photo booth, lighting, sound, whatever. No one cares about that. What you need to go and do is navigate your web page or build out your web page in a way that is contextual based on the event type that someone's looking for. So you would have home, wedding, school dance, mitzvah, special event or other event, and about and contact. Now, a couple things to note there. First and foremost, I put the about page at the end because no one wants to read about you. I can tell you right now, your about page is almost never viewed. And then also I said special event instead of other event. Another trick that we go and use. When you go and you're celebrating something and you go to a DJ's website because you need a DJ and your actual event doesn't categorize as a wedding or a school dance or a sweet 16 or something like that, and it's just considered an other event, it's like, well, it's an other event? I don't want to be an other event. This is a special event. So if you go and say special event, it is still all inclusive of other event, but you're not saying other event because words mean things. So that's another trick we go and use. But the whole reason behind this is that when someone goes to your website, if they're celebrating a particular event, they're going to go to that page, and then all the information they see on that page is contextual to that particular event. So instead of going to a DJ page and the DJ page is talking about all these different event types that you have, you're going to a wedding page that talks about DJ services and only wedding DJ services. So another small trick that we go and use. It's really effective too.
Yeah, it looks like Ron says he uses an app. What about apps, Mike? In regards to, I think it was checking your website. Is that right, Ron?
I think, are you talking about that you use GT metrics? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I think it popped up when you were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so Ron also said, I give everything back, and Mike is right. They will rebook, and I tell everybody else I don't keep anything. I give everything back in 24 hours. So yeah, he gives the full refund, and he's getting a lot of good karma from it, which is great. Ron also says, for corporate events, they want the About You on there. I lost a gig due to I didn't have the About Me filled out. They said I don't pay close attention. I use for bookings. Yeah, I'm not saying don't have the About You page, or you definitely need an About page. But I can also just let you know that when you look at your Google Analytics, the About page is typically not very highly viewed. Your number one page, whatever page is going to be most viewed is whatever is going to get them closest to pricing. If we had enough time, I would show you probably 100 different Google Analytics accounts for 100 different DJ websites. I can tell you the number one most viewed page is whichever is the one that was that the client was brought to on the promise that they would get pricing. So if you have a get pricing now button, or get a quote here, or find an estimate, or get an estimate, or check my date, that's the number one most viewed page because people want pricing as soon as possible. So everything is secondary.
To piggyback on that, is that something you recommend that people put on their website is pricing, because that is often very debated. Should I have my full pricing? Should I have a breakdown? Should I have starting at? I mean, what would you suggest with that?
Yeah, so I am not a fan of putting full definitive pricing, just because I think that allows you to leave money on the table, because someone's gonna, if someone wanted to pay $1,500 and your package came in at 12, then you just lost $300. So I always like going and putting starting pricing or pricing starting at. However, I put it behind a wall. What I mean is if someone's trying to go and get a quote, I always want them to go and fill out a form so I collect their information so I get a lead. So if I were to go and say that I'm looking for pricing, I would go to a website and then I'd either have a pricing quiz, I would have some sort of gamification, I would just go and have maybe even just a form, as simple as a form. But I want to make sure that as a DJ, I want to collect information from every single person who's on my website and then use that to go and follow up with them. So I use different softwares to go and automate the entire follow-up process, where we automate texts, emails, phone calls, voicemail drops, full 9 yards, because as soon as all these leads come in, I need to go and convert them. But if I just put my pricing out there and I'm not following up with them, then I can't sell to them because I don't know who they are. But if I go and collect that information up front and then have an entire follow-up process around that, I just went and made my website a sales machine. I just made money off my website, where a lot of people feel like they just need to have a pretty website. But the problem with the pretty website is it doesn't necessarily always go and make sales. So I always like to go and sell our websites, as my firm will go and always say, that we don't sell just pretty websites. We sell pretty websites that actually make you money. And that's the reason why, is because we're building these sales machines, these actual follow-up processes that make sure that every single person who visits your website will actually come and convert into a client. That's
really awesome. It looks like Alton says gamify the pricing.
Yep.
And then Ron, I have a package for $3,000 on the app. They book it and then we chat about details. It works awesome. So do you suggest putting like a book now button where people can literally, if they want the date, you're available, they can click a button, give you money and book it?
I mean, if you'd like, it really depends on your business model. I don't think that there's always a definitive answer for most DJs, just because typically when you have your DJ company, there's either the people who are the very like boutique-y DJs, but then you also have the people who are like Eliix Marketing or any of those other guys who they're more kind of, here's our package, here's what our price is. And there's nothing wrong with either side of them. It really just comes down to, okay, how do you want to run your business? If you're kind of the Eliix Marketing route, where you have definitive pricing and you go and you book at scale, then yeah, go and have an online booking system. Go and collect a pricing right there, or collect a card information right there. Because if you don't, then you could potentially go and lose that sale to someone else who does. Now, if you're more boutique-y, what you can go and do is just collect the information up front, give them the pricing information that they want, give them a planning guide of sorts, and then indoctrinate them over time with automation and sales flows, where you're going and texting them, emailing them, calling them, leaving them voicemail drops, so on and so forth. Because that also works incredibly well. It just depends on which side of the fence you're on. I don't think that there is a definitive right or wrong answer. It just depends on, okay, what's my business model? Okay, then what's the best flow for that?
Perfect. Looks like we're almost out of time. Sean asked, how do you find out more about your website design services? Your website. How can they reach you if they want to chat with you?
Yeah, go ahead and message me on Facebook. My name is Mike Petritis, Petritis, or you can go and visit our website at eliix.marketing, Eliix Marketing. And we have all the information there as well. We have a few different portfolio pieces on our website you can go and check out. We do a lot of websites. I mean, that's kind of our thing. We've been doing DJ websites now for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. And I like to think that we've made some significant differences in some people's businesses.
Perfect. So it looks like we are at our time. I do have one final question. My son, who is 9, gets to ask the final question every week. And, you know, we didn't go over them this week, so I'm going to go back to the one that I asked the very first week I started this webcast. And that is, who would win a fight, a dinosaur or a robot?
Ooh. I would probably say robot, because I'm guessing that the robot totally has like missile launchers or some sort of long-range device, where the T-Rex, it dominates in upfront combat, close to hand-to-hand combat, but the robot doesn't play like that. The robot's definitely doing the long-range thing. Actually, follow-up question to that, because I got in a fight with one of my business partners. We were hanging out one night. Katie, who do you think would win? A giant sumo wrestler the size of Godzilla, or an skilled Apache warrior who's handcuffed to a golf cart?
Apache warrior.
Thank you. Thank you. Because the Apache warrior has a bow and arrow, and the giant sumo wrestler, I mean, he's just big. That's all he can do. What's he gonna do? I mean, come on.
No, I say the Apache guy. Yeah, perfect. It looks like I asked Alton that question too. That was like the very first week that I started this webcast. And everybody loved it. So I might just stick with that one this week.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Katie.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I do have Tony with Global Trust here, and I'm excited to talk to him about some things you guys can do. If you have any questions at all, write them in the comments, and we will check them out and answer as we are able to. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye.